Welcome to DFS JAGS PGA Golf Show 2021 Fortinet Championship DraftKings picks bets. Kicking off the 2021-2022 PGA Tour season after a long 1 week layoff. I want to remind each and every one of you to like, comment, and subscribe to the Nickel City Mafia channel. That way, all this juicy fantasy football, golf, DFS content, it'll just get dumped right into your feed. Rick and Chris will continue to do their weekly football fantasy show, helping you build your fantasy football dynasty each and every week. Mike will continue to do the breakdown of the Bills pre and post game, and Rick and I will be doing a full Ryder Cup breakdown next week. It's US, it's Europe, it's the best of the best, duking it out of Whistling Straits. It just doesn't get better than that in golf. I am your host, as is the huge Tony Altieri, and joining me on the line, fresh from a weekend of drunken bets, terrible gambling, and potential, I don't know, marriage-ending, decisions in Las Vegas for the Ravens and Raiders Monday night opener. Dr. Riku Mukherjee. Rick, what's going on, man?
Hey man, how you doing? How'd you enjoy your 1 week off season? What'd you do?
Oh, dude, it was refreshing. The wife and I, we went on a cruise all around, the Arctic, and then we decided to come back. So it was wonderful, man.
Yeah, I spent 4 days in Vegas, and now I feel like absolute dog shit for the last 24 hours.
Yeah. For any of the folks out there following you on Instagram, they got a nice little reminder of the good time that you and Chris had out in Vegas. I did have one
Yeah,
question. Did Chris bring his girlfriend out there?
yeah, she did. She was there.
Oh, geez, that seems like just a bad decision all the way
No,
around.
she's cool. She's actually really chill. So she's a good time.
Yeah, my wife's great and all too, but if I'm going to Vegas with a bunch of dudes, like I'm not bringing my wife with me. It just doesn't seem like the kind of thing I would do, right? You didn't bring your
Yeah,
wife, did you? Did you?
no, I didn't bring my wife. I also have a kid, so she has somebody has to watch him. So yeah, this was definitely it was definitely fun. I drank a lot. It was very depressing last night when the Ravens lost. After I thought they won, after I thought they lost, and then they won again, and then they lost again. It was a wild ass game. But yeah, it was a fun trip. Just drinking all weekend, having fun. I was at a pretty sick location on Sunday at the swim bar at Circa. We had a huge screen watching all the football games on Sunday, which was awesome. And yeah, it was fun. It was a first though. It was my first ever Vegas trip that I didn't go to a strip club, which is weird.
Yeah, that seems like just something you'd pull into the rotation there. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like gamble, drink, pool party, NFL opener at the Raiders, strip club. Like those are the
yeah.
five things you do when you're in Vegas.
It just never came about. Everyone was all so tired after days of drinking. There's no one wanted to like really go out to a strip club at night.
That's how you know you're getting old. When like
Yeah,
day drinking wears on you and like 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, you're like, I'm starving, and you eat, you're like, I'm going to sleep. That's when
yeah,
you're old. When you can't
yep.
when you can't make it past like 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, but yeah, last night was fun. We had awesome seats at the game, right behind the goalposts, and we were on TV a few times, so it was a good time.
Yeah, man, it seemed like you guys had a good time. Obviously, the Ravens didn't pull it off. I think I saw a post on Twitter that said they're the first team in history to ever lose a game 3 times in a row in one
Yeah,
game. It's
yeah, it was.
unbelievable. I mean, it was one of the most entertaining games. There were multiple moments during the course of the third and fourth quarter where I was like, that didn't just happen. There's no way
Yeah,
that happened. Like, how
yeah.
could they let that happen? I mean, it was unbelievable. And, again, the Raiders had their weird voodoo magic working and were able to pull it out at the end
I,
of the
I
game.
I will say one thing. I've been in a lot of NFL stadiums in my life. That was one of the loudest stadiums I've ever been in. It was rocking last night.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Vegas, it's the Raiders. I mean,
Yeah,
it's going to be tough to beat, but at
yeah,
least you weren't alone in your misery. You had your crew with you, and then Mike's
yeah.
team, the Bills, they got beat as well too, so he was equally as bummed out.
Yeah, well, we'll touch on all that tomorrow on the football show. But yeah, it was a rough weekend for Bills Mafia and Ravens Nation, unfortunately.
Yeah. This is what makes me happy that I don't have an NFL team, and why I like golf and college football, and I'll just all that and let you guys have all this fun.
Yeah, let's talk about something we do enjoy, which is golf.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've got the first tournament of the year. So this tournament was previously the Safeway Open. I don't know how you can get a downgrade from a name, the Safeway Open, but they did. They found a way to downgrade the name to the Fortinet Championship, which I'm guessing is some kind of internet service provider or whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's a terrible name. It's a shitty tournament. But we do have John Rahm. who is in this tournament for whatever reason. I don't know if somebody has naked pictures of his wife or, threatened to murder his child, but he is playing in this tournament. The number one player in the world is here, and he is head and shoulders the best guy in the field. Before we get too much into the details on the Fortinet, I do want to touch briefly on the Ryder Cup because both teams were announced last week. There was some controversy about the American team, guys that were left off, guys that were added. Specifically, Scheffler, we touched on it very briefly in the football show that you, I, and Chris did last week. But any initial thoughts on the Ryder Cup and the selections for both Team USA and Team Europe?
The Europe ones were pretty standard. I mean, they pick what, Sergio and Ian Poulter and Bernd Wiesberger. Those were the picks. I know Shane Lowry, right?
Yeah,
Was that
Wiesberger was an auto with his
Auto? Yeah,
at the BMW.
yeah. I think the last spot came down to either Shane Lowry or Justin Rose, and that's a pretty obvious selection, being that Shane Lowry's a way better golfer than Justin Rose. So I was very not surprised about the Europe team. For the Americans, I was a little surprised by Scheffler. I probably would have gone Patrick Reed or Sam Burns or somebody with on that essence. But Scheffler's not a bad pick. I guess this course is a pretty good suited one for him. But yeah, like we were talking about before the show, Brooks is probably the biggest question mark with his wrist injury, but it looks like he's going to play, and I think. I have a really, spicy take on this. I kind of wish Brooks did not play. I think he is the biggest problem on this team, to be completely honest with you. I think he brings a lot of drama and selfishness to this team that is really kind of ruining the locker room. I saw his interview today, and he was talking about how he just doesn't like the Ryder Cup. Basically, he just kind of does his own thing, and it's not like a normal tournament. He doesn't really get in the team spirit, which is weird. And he doesn't seem like he's cares about playing for USA. So, yeah, I mean. Brooks is kind of turning into a villain for me. I'm really not liking his attitude and stuff like this. And I think it's going to ruin the team chemistry. And I mean, Europe at plus 200 as a bet seems like pretty much a lock, but it's hard for me to click that because I'm going to obviously be cheering for USA, but
Oh yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like you. I auto bet it. I said if it got, 2 or north of 2 that I would hit it, and it did. And I mean, on paper, like we talked about, the US should demolish Europe at this course. The US is
Mhm.
built for success here. But to your point, I think Brooks is the oddball, for all of the things that Bryson's kind of been called out for and all the idiosyncrasies and nuances that he has. Brooks is just kind of a dick, and he's not a very
Mhm.
well liked guy. And he plays that up because it's popular on social media, and it works for him to sell his brand. But to your point, he's a guy that started his career on the European tour. I think his brother plays in Europe as well too. So he's a
Mhm.
guy who played in Europe, spent time there, and so he just I don't know, he just the chemistry just doesn't seem to mix with him and the other guys on the team. And as we know, the Ryder Cup is so much the team chemistry, so much of that about the way guys play together and with each other on the course and the way those twosomes are built throughout the course of the tournament. So with him not really giving a shit, for lack of a better term, it makes it hard as a playing partner to play with a guy like that because, you don't really know what to expect when you're on the course.
Yeah, we all know that Europe has been dominating USA over the last 9 or 10 Ryder Cups. I think they've won like seven of them. So
Yep.
we know that their team chemistry is a lot better than ours, and we'll see how it plays out this week. I think next week. I think if USA loses this Ryder Cup to Europe, I think they got to make some serious changes or something to figure out how to get across the finish line, because on paper they have an incredible squad. Like they have like all the top players in the world, and all Europe really has as far as top end is Rahm and Rory, and everyone behind that is not as good as the top end players from USA. So on paper, the USA should win. We'll see how it plays out. I think the team chemistry comes out, wins out for Europe in the end, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll dive into all of the details next week. We'll have a full show about the Ryder Cup. We'll talk betting for the Ryder Cup as well as DraftKings, but I'm excited to do that. It is my favorite golf tournament of all golf tournaments, majors, Olympics, anything. It is the best one.
Yep.
It's made for TV. It's fantastic. So excited to talk that with you. But first, we're going to talk about this steaming pile of a tournament that is this week in Napa Valley, right? In wine country. The entire region's on fire. It seems to be a consistent issue every time they play there. Here we are again. And the entire, area in Northern California is on fire again, but we're having a golf tournament again at Silverado. So like I mentioned, this was previously the Safeway. It's a course that's been in rotation for a very long time. Robert Trent Jones. It's a par 72. It's only 7,000 yards, so it's not very long. Last year's champ is not playing in this. It was Stu Sink. Stu Manji won 2 times last year. This was his first win of the season. And the big thing here, and you'll hear it whether you're listening to our show or any other shows out there, is this is one of the few courses where off the tee is the most important stat. It's guys who can put the ball in the fairway or guys who can pound the ball down near the greens with immense driver distance. Those are really the 2 skill sets that you need. It's a wedge fest, and because length at this course isn't a huge issue, guys who are not very long off the tee are still going to be hitting wedges into greens. So wedge play and off the tee game is going to be massively important this week. That key distance, the par 4s, there's a bunch of them from 400 to 450. And like I said, that proximity 125 to 150, you can basically go 150 all the way down to less than 100. And that's where most of the approach shots are going to come from this week. So guys who are really good with short irons and wedges, those are the guys you want to take. And of course, as always, approach will be a key factor this week. Rick, what do you like in guys in your setup this week as we're looking forward to the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, look at the past winners, Kevin Tway and Stuart Sink and Brendan Steele. Like, these are guys that are like pretty good off the tee, like long off the tee. And I think what it does, it sounds kind of weird, but I think kind of neutralizes the field a little bit, because even though Rahm is obviously far and away the best player in this field, I mean, when it comes down to it, he's hitting a wedge compared to another professional golfer who's hitting a wedge, which these guys are just their scoring club. And I mean, a wedge for any 2 professional golfers is going to be a lot similar than comparing like Rahm hitting his like 2 iron or 3 iron compared to one of the worst golfers. So yeah, I mean, it does neutralize the field. We can, if anyone in this field, like from the lower end, like one of the bombs win this tournament, are we going to be surprised? No. But yeah, like I said, I mean, off the tee is pretty huge here, and just got to keep it in play, and then it just becomes a putting contest. It's going to be a low scoring event like it always is. I think Stewart won last year at -21 or something like that. But yeah, it's going to be in that range of like -16 to -20. That's going to be the winner this year.
Yeah, I mean, the course really doesn't have a lot in terms of like defenses. It's not super windy. The rough isn't bad. It's just if you can find the fairway, you have an advantage. The one thing I would say is I did a little bit of a deeper dive and I looked over at just crossover leaderboards. If you look at the Sony Open in Hawaii, the Valero in Texas, and the Waste Management in Phoenix, you'll find a lot of the same guys at the top of the leaderboards: Reeve, Webb, Steele, CH3, Na, Leishman, Kazire, Swafford, Hadley. All of those guys play well. It could be just the time of the year and the fact that they're typically competing in this rotation, but those guys tend to do well at every one of these tournaments. Each of those guys looks like they've either won or contended for a win at one of those 3 or 4 courses. So look at the Sony, look at the Valero, pull up the Waste Management, the leaderboards you'll see there. You'll see a lot of the same names for the guys that are competing this week. So let's jump into it. Top of the board, 10K and above, we have 5 names. We have John Rahm, who we mentioned, Hideki Matsuyama, Webb Simpson, Will Zalatoris, his first, official tournament in his attempt to be a card-carrying PGA Tour pro, even though he won Rookie of the Year, not being officially on the PGA Tour. That happened, yeah. But he was, he won Rookie of the Year. And then Kevin Na at $10,000. So, right, the conversation here is to Rahm or not to Rahm. That is the question. He's 12,100. Constructing lineups in DraftKings will be difficult. He's unbettable at like 3.5, 4.5 to 1. So we don't even need to have that conversation. But do you take John Rahm this week?
How can you not? I mean, it's a weird situation, because he's priced at 12,100, and that's one of the highest price, if not the highest price that we've seen for a single golfer. But I still think that's a little bit too low. I think he should be priced like 13,000, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, I mean, if you're going to go Rahm, he's going to be the chalk in this range. It seems like even though he's the highest price, everyone's floating to him. But I mean, what's there not to love about Rom? He kills it in California. I don't really know why he's playing this tournament. It doesn't make sense to me. But he has the Ryder Cup next week. I figured he'd be in Whistling Straits, like practicing that right now, like with the rest of everyone else. But I guess he just wanted to get a tournament under his belt. I like Rom. I think you either got to make the decision at the top of this range to either kind of go all in on Rom if you're building 150 lineups or completely fade him. I think that's the decision that you have to make. But I really like Will Z. I mean, I've always been a proponent for Will Z. He's like one of my favorite players on tour. I think this court suits him really well. He hasn't played golf in a while in a tournament. He's had a nice month and a half off since the Wyndham, not being able to play in the playoffs. So I really like Will Z up here. I really like Rom up here. They are the chalks in this range, but I don't really like Hideki. I don't really like Webb. I don't really like Na, but I like those two guys. But the other three guys I could really care less about. I'd rather go down. I'd rather pay up for Rom and Wilsey and then go down to this 7K range.
Yeah, you make an interesting point. For me, I'm just going to take a hardline stance to not take John Rahm. And here's the reasoning behind it for me is you brought up the Ryder Cup. The Ryder Cup is a huge deal to him, right? Other than Rory, he's the next guy in line to be the leader of the Ryder Cup team for decades, right? And so he's here to me for vacation. He's got his wife, he's got his kid, they're in Napa, they're hanging out, they're drinking wine. He's having a good time. He's looking at this like a tune-up for next week. And I can't see him really grinding out a victory because even though he is head and shoulders the best golfer in this field, he's going to have to play very, very good John Rahm golf in order to win, right? And so I can't see that happening for him a week before what will be one of the biggest tournaments of his life. I don't see it. The other guys that you mentioned is in this range. Hideki's a guy that's obviously going to go under owned. He's been playing like dog shit. And I don't think anybody is going to own him, especially at that price. Webb, to me, is the guy that I think I would probably go to on DraftKings here. And it's purely because Will Z and Knopf feel like better bets to me this week than DraftKings plays for their pricing, just from a value perspective, right? You can get Will Z and Na anywhere from 20 to 30, somewhere in that range on the betting board. And so that kind of makes me zero in on Webb Simpson as the guy if I'm playing the top of the board. I'm probably going to grab Webb. And like I mentioned, he's got a win at Wampo. He's played well at the Sony. So those crossover courses, he's had success. Not necessarily the same level here at this tournament, but he doesn't have, the Ryder Cup looming over him. And both he and Na have that Billy Horschel win a tournament to shove it up Steve Stricker's ass mentality for not being the pick for the Ryder Cup. So I like Webb here.
Yeah, I think that the snub of Webb and Kevin Na for the Ryder Cup is going to be a little bit of a motivation factor. Probably more for Kevin Na than Webb. Webb's played on a ton of Ryder Cups before, so yeah, I definitely could see the Webb play. I just got to see it from him. He's been injured and not playing well this past season. I got to see him play well for 4 rounds, and then I'll be back on him. He's just been really bad with the driver and can't drive the ball all that well. And then we talked about how driving is so important to this course. If he can keep the ball in play, from wedges and putting, I mean, Webb Simpson is one of the best in the world. So I could definitely see that. But yeah, I really like Will Z this week, but that's my play. That's who I'm going to go with.
Yeah, dropping down to the next range, we've got the guys sub 10K, the $9,000 range. We have 6 guys in this range, and I'll be honest with you, I absolutely hate this range. Like
me too.
This is like the high sevens in a normal tournament. But you've got Cam Tringali, Mark Leishman, Siwoo Kim, Sebastian Munoz, Varner, and Cam Champ, who is a winner previously at this tournament. I honestly, I probably won't take anybody in this range. If I'm going to grab anybody, it's probably Champ, maybe Munoz. Varner is interesting, but I just, I can't see paying the price for Tringali or Leishman or even Siwoo at these numbers.
Yeah, I absolutely hate this range also. I don't like any of these guys. I mean, the only one I would even consider playing is Harold Varner, but he's coming in at 25% owned, $9,100. That seems like an auto fade for me. But I guess if I was going to go to anyone in this range, it'd be Munoz, maybe Cam Champ, just because he has good history here of winning the tournament, and maybe he can have another spike putting week and play well. But yeah, Munoz is probably the best player in this range. Just he just fills it up with birdies and really good from tee to green, and he plays good, makes good putts. And the thing with Munoz though is that can he put it together for 4 rounds at this price range? I don't know. He
Hit
can
it on
usually
the
do it.
head.
Yeah, you can usually do it for 2 rounds, but yeah, I don't really like anyone from this range, to be completely honest with you. I'd probably just pay up above 10K and then drop down to the 8s or 7s.
Yeah, Varner is the guy. I mean, that everybody's going to gravitate to. He's got good course history. His form has been excellent. He ended the year tremendously. Stats wise, he lines up in all the key stats. He's a beast off the tee. So the only thing that I would say with Varner, you don't really think of Varner as a West Coast golfer, right? You always think of him kind of down south during the swing season. That's when he does well. But you don't really see him as a West Coast golfer. But in my model, like my ranking, he's coming in as the number 2 guy in the field. So that's why everybody's gravitating to him. He's just lighting up the board from all the statistical measurements.
Yeah, but at that price yeah, the stats play out with, like, he has great history here also. So at that price, at that chalk, it's just it's tough to click that name. I mean, if you're gonna do it, then maybe be like even with the field at that range. I
Yeah.
can't imagine going overweight on Harold Varner at 9,100.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Munoz is the play from this range.
Yeah.
If you want to eat the chalk with Varner, which I think I would not recommend at 9100, like a chalky Harold Varner at 74, I'm okay with that. A chalky Harold Varner at 9100, that's death to me.
Yeah, I will say one thing though, that if you are playing in really big field GPPs this week, which DraftKings has, and you want to be different and you want to win a GPP, start your lineups in this range, because no one is doing that. Everyone is starting above
Yeah.
10K. So start your lineups in this range. Maybe pick 2 or 3 guys from this range and see what happens. But that's one way for you to be different in a GPP. But in a cash game or small field events, do not start in this range.
Yeah, I mean, if you to your point, Tringali has played great. He can't finish and win tournaments. Like he's
Yeah.
played phenomenal all year. The ball striking has been good. He's good with the putter. He checks all the boxes. Leishman has been absolute garbage. I don't know why he's at 9,500 other
Yeah,
than
I don't get that price
yeah.
either.
Yeah, other than I think he had a good finish here last year. He does have good finishes at the corollary courses that I mentioned at Wampo and at Sony. So I get it, but I kind of don't. And Siwoo Kim is completely mispriced. Like I get the high end skill set, but I mean, come on, $9,300 for Siwoo. He's just as likely to miss the cut as he is to finish top 5. So
Yeah, way too high miscut equity to be priced at that range.
yeah, the variance in outcomes for him is just ridiculous. And anybody who's rostering him, you're either going to look really smart or really stupid come Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
Dropping down to the next range, the 8,000s. This is the range that everyone loves, right? It's led off by Grillo and Hoffman, who are going to be 2 of the most heavily owned guys this week on DraftKings. Homa, McNeely, Reeve, Todd, and then 2 of the brand new guys up from the Corn Ferry Tour. Obviously, one of those Mito we're very, very familiar with. Mito's going to be maybe top 5 most heavily owned guy on DraftKings. Everybody's got him on the card. And then the other one is Steven Jaeger. Jaeger was the best player on the Corn Ferry Tour last year. He played phenomenally. I think he had 2 or 3 victories. He had, I don't know how many top 5s and top 10s. So he comes in his first tournament at $8,000. What do you like in this range?
Charlie and Mito, those are my guys. I play them every week. I absolutely love their ball striking and win equity. They could easily win these tournaments, but this is a glorified Corn Ferry event, and if you're going to go with that kind of event, I mean, yes, obviously the top end with Rom, makes it a little bit different than a Corn Ferry event, but I love Charlie. I love Mito. If you're going to pivot to someone, you can go to Steven Jaeger. No one's playing him. As I call him, Steven Jaeger bombs, but he's good. I just don't know much about him. I think he's played on tour before. I'm not really
Yeah.
sure. But I don't know much about him, but he's coming in way lower ownership. He's coming in like around 3-4%. But yeah, I don't really have a feeling from any of the other guys. I've seen a lot of people talking about Chez Reeve, saying that this is a good course for him, but I mean, who knows with him. But yeah, my guys in this range are for sure are Charlie and Mito for sure.
Yeah, I love Shez this week. He comes in number one in my model. Course history outside of Steel, he has the best course history. The stats all line up. The key distances. You talk about wedge play. That's his strength. And then form. He finished out the year really, really strong. So I like Reeve a lot. The other guy I like in this range is Gooch. He's a
Mhm.
guy who he has those spike weeks where he just shows up. He's typically a first round leader bet for me if he's on the card. So I like Gooch and Reeve here. The other guy that I could see sprinkling in, I mean, Hoffman and Mito, that's a given. But the other guy that I could see sprinkling in is Jaeger, just because I think he's proven that he can play very well. This is now his second or third stint on tour, so he's a guy who's familiar with the tracks. He's playing his best golf, and I think that he is a good play if you're looking at trying to pivot and get some ownership, get away from some of the more chalkier guys in this range.
No love for Griot this week.
I hate Emiliano Grillo, dude. Every time he's chalky, he's terrible. And then
Yeah,
the weeks that nobody wants to play him, that's when he shows up. So I realize this is the only win that he has, but
yeah.
I can't do it, man. Like
He's
I
such
have
a such
no
a bad putter, man. He's like the
oh,
worst putter. Yeah, him
dude,
and
he is
Hideki.
so bad,
Yeah,
so
him
bad.
and Hideki are like battling for the worst putters on tour.
Yeah, I can't do it, man. Like I literally have stomach ulcers from playing him and betting him, and I can't go back to it. I'm starting a new year, and it's going to be Grillo free this year.
You want to talk about misprices? How about Phil at 8,100? That should not be his price. Why is he at 8,100?
I guess if you're gonna have him below Corn Ferry Tour guys playing their first event of the year, like you can.
He belongs there. He should be in the low sevens.
Yeah, I mean, this was a course that was typically a good course for him.
Yeah,
Again, you talk about wine and all that BS. Phil's all about that's Phil 101 right there. But yeah, I mean, he's got good course history, and Phil just shows up occasionally, and maybe he does this week, but it's just not for me, dude. I can't get there. It's Gooch
he
and
showed
Reedy for me.
he showed up 1 week last year. That's it. Just
And he
1
won a
week last
major,
season.
and he won a
Yeah, he
major.
won a major, but the rest of the year was such crap.
Oh, dude, it was ridiculous. But you still got those people that love to play him, and with all the Jags that are going to be out there on doing, daily fantasy for the NFL, you're going to get
Yeah,
those people to migrate over, and they're going to see his name and they're going to click
that's
that button.
I think that's the big thing. Like for people that like won money on NFL Week 1, they're gonna start building lineups. Like while they're sitting on the
Yep,
toilet, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, am I gonna play Steven Yeager or Mito Pereira? It's like two names I've never heard before, or am I
yeah,
gonna play Phil Mickelson? Like obviously, guys won 50 times on tour. So, yeah, I mean that's it. But yeah, I'm not gonna be clicking his name. No chance.
yeah. The other guy that could be again when you talk about corollary courses comps, he hasn't been good as of late. It's Sneds right there. He's going to come in at like no ownership,
Yeah.
but wedges, if he can get out of the tee box, but he's just been bad as of late. He's definitely on the backside of his career, but
Mm.
again, he's got good course history, corollary courses line up. So I mean, if you're just looking to throw a flyer to make your lineup a little bit different, don't be afraid to click the button on Sneds to change it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think you sold me a little bit on Shez. I think I'm gonna sprinkle him into my lineups for sure.
Yeah, he's a solid bet for me. When I saw the number, I jumped in right away, and he'll be a DraftKings guy for me. I just think, the way that he's just been playing down the stretch, I can't argue with that. And so I'm going to trust the numbers and trust what I've been seeing here over the last 2 or 3 months with him.
All right, yeah, cool.
All right, dropping down to the 7,000s, right? So here's where we've got quite a mix of guys. More of the Corn Ferry Tour guys are starting to migrate their way into this, including some European names that we know well. Lucas Herbert, Aaron Rye. These are guys that are pretty good regular European Tour guys who competed in the Corn Ferry tournaments this year and earned their way onto the PGA Tour. So they are card-carrying members of the PGA Tour this year. So we're going to see a lot more of those guys. Down here in this range, it is really a mixed bag of different guys. Some guys with form, some guys with course history. Pat Perez is the one guy at the top of this price range that I have heard mentioned by a number of people. The form and the stats are there. This is a resort course. Again, it's not on Pas Palma greens, which seems to be the only place that Pat Perez ever wins. But if you're looking to fill out a lineup or check a box, he seems to be a good choice. The other one is right behind him is Doug Gim. Gim is a bet for me. I bet him to win as soon as I saw the number. I jumped on it. He's been playing really, really well. Statistically, it lines up, and I think he's a guy that we could see trending in the right direction in his, third or fourth year on tour.
Yeah, I like both of them. I actually love the 7K range. There's so many guys in here I want to play, but definitely Doug Gim and Pat Perez up top are my probably my two favorite plays in the 7K range. Doug Gim, unbelievable season last year, tee to green, just literally can't make a putt. But if he flips that around, and his pose is best putting surface, so I definitely can play him. Pat Perez has been playing well for the last few months, and I know we all say pass Palom, but he's been really good tee to green, and like you said, resort course, he can play around in golf and then go drink some wine afterwards. It seems like a Pat Perez kind of course. Dropping down a little bit, I really like Taylor Pendrith. I don't know, that's a name that not many people know. He's a Canadian golfer on the from the Corn Ferry Tour. The guy literally bombs it off the tee. Has had some starts in the PGA Tour in the past, and has played pretty well in the tour. So I definitely like Taylor Pendrith. Another guy I really like is Dylan Fratelli. The guy, I think he's priced appropriately at 7,500, but he is long off the tee, and I think this course suits him pretty well.
Yeah, some other names to throw out there, like I mentioned, corollary course guys who have good course history here. Justin Headley plays well here every single year. He has been terrible all year, every year for the last 3 or 4 years, but the guy shows up here year in and year out and plays very, very well. Wedges, off the tee game, that is him. Another guy I really like, who I rode for most of the back half of 2021, was Hank Lebioda. Right, the putter finally disappeared, and he went back to putting either normal or had a bad week, however you want to decipher it. But Hank's here at 7,100, so I'll be back in on Hank again this week. Swafford and Kazire are two guys that I think need to make their way into people's lineups. Good course history for one of them, not for the other. And then the fact that both guys at the corollary courses, Sony, Wampo, and the Valero, have had very good finishes, and I believe each of those guys have won at those courses. So
They might actually be the same person. I think they
yeah,
might be the same guy.
yeah, them and Harris English, like they all
Yeah,
they look like they're brothers from another mother.
I don't think they've ever been in the same room at one time.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see if they can pull off playing at this and being at the Whistling Straits practicing with Team USA this week. So
Yeah,
we'll kind of see what happens there. But I do like Fratelli as well too.
yeah.
Great off the tree, great with wedges. Ryan Moore is another guy you talk wedge game, and again, I recognize that he's not been in form. He's a guy that's fighting to get his card back. He's on some sort of exemption status this year, but Ryan Moore's a guy that's played well here, has the skill set to do well. And then everybody forgot about Roger Sloan. Like Roger Sloan was like the hottest dude in golf for like 5 or 6 weeks. And
Yeah.
then I think he missed the cut either at the Wyndham or the Northern Trust. And everybody's like, oh, he's terrible again.
Yeah.
He is back. Again, course history, not the best, but we saw a flash of form that we've never seen out of Roger Sloan before. He is here. He's $7,800. And you want to talk about getting some ownership break from Gim and Perez. No one's going to own him.
Yeah, I Roger Sloan, he was a staple in my lineups for the last couple months. But yeah, he was having a great end of the season last year, so definitely could play him. A couple other names I'm going to throw out here, some familiar names, some not so familiar names. The familiar names for me are going to be Karadet Api Barnrath. He's been playing really well. He played a few events on the European tour the last month or so, and he's been in contention to win both of those events. He got beat out by Billy Horschel last week at the European PGA Tour BMW Championship, but he's been really good. So I definitely like some Karadet. I definitely like who was the other name that I really liked here? Joseph Bramlett. He just won the Corn Ferry Tour Finals. He is another bomber. I could definitely play some Bramlett. I also bet him. Some not so familiar names for the viewers out there. Sahith Tagala. He's this Indian guy that was basically the college player of the year a couple seasons ago. He went to Pepperdine University. He's from California. So, he's had a few starts on the PGA Tour, done pretty well. I think he's made the cut a few times. So I think he could flash this season. He's going to be a full, card carrying member this year. So he's going to be playing a lot of events. I mean, he could have a couple, events where he flashes and is up there in contention. And then one last name that I'm going to give you guys that no one really knows about. His name is at $7,000, Chad Ramey. I bet this guy. He's a Korn Ferry graduate also. This guy, his stats are unbelievable on the Korn Ferry Tour. I think the last 2 seasons, he's played like 50 events or something like that, and he's missed the cut twice. I don't care what tournament you're at. I don't care what tour you're playing on. Making 48 or whatever, 49 out of 51 cuts or something like that is unbelievable. So this guy is a ball striking machine. His stats are up there. He's even won a couple times. So definitely going to take a flyer on Chad Ramey at $7,000.
Yeah, the last 2 guys that I'll throw out before we move down into the dumpster below $7,000 are, Charles Howell III and Brendan Steele. Brendan Steele has won twice at this course. I mean, we joke, in talking before this is the Brendan Steele Open. Prior to this, Steele's was garbage at the end of the year, but he obviously has the best history of anybody in this tournament competing. And then Charles Howell III. This is a place that, that Stu Sink won last year. Why not Charles Howard III, right? Corollary courses, great here, great at Sony, great at Wampo. Everything lines up. His form was okay, not great, but I like Charles Howell III as well too here. So again, if you're trying to get some ownership away from those names mentioned, the Gims and the Perez's of the world, those are good pivots where I think you've still got a solid opportunity to have a guy who could contend to be top 10, top 15 this week.
Yeah, Brendan Steele this week's just a bet for me. I'm not going to play him on DraftKings. I think if he's going to just get the good feelings coming back to this course, he could spike and win the event. But he also has been playing absolute garbage for the last couple months, so I can't have him ruining my lineups at that price. So especially when I like guys around him, but I bet him, so that's just a feel good bet, just because the fact that he's won back-to-back years here. Maybe he does it again. Who knows?
Yeah, it's interesting. Guys get feels at courses, and they just tend to like the way the setup is. They understand the undulations in the fairways and the greens, and they just play well every year. With that being said, I'm like you. I'll have Steele sprinkled in the lineups. I'm not even betting him this week, even though you can get really good numbers on him. I just think his game is so off kilter. I think he probably makes the cut, and he may even have a chance to finish top 20, but I really can't see him in the current state of his game having any opportunity to win or contend here this year.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so dropping down into the dumpster diving below $7,000. Obviously, there are a shit ton of names here. This is where the majority of the Korn Ferry Tour guys are, and you've got your regular, cascading, I don't know, campaign of retards, rejects, and losers. My guy Ryan Armour, who I love, I am betting him again this week. There's a couple guys that are FOMO bets for me. Armour is a guy, again, he arguably had his best stretch of golf in his history here last year. I like Armour at 6,900. Other guys in this range, Duffner played well. The ball striking is back. Kyle Stanley, the guy hits a shitload of fairways and a lot of greens, but you talk about Team No Putt, he's right there with Hideki and Grillo. And if you can stomach watching him miss 4-footers the entire week, then go for it. I just don't know if I can do it. But there's a lot of familiar names here, guys that will be playing to potentially keep their card. But like we kind of alluded to, this is the kind of tournament where basically anybody can win, and somebody from this area, Bo Van Pelt, Mark Hubbard, someone could rise up and win from here out of nowhere, because this course allows so many different types of players, skill sets to compete and have an opportunity to win. So in this range, Rick, who do you like?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I don't like anyone. I'm looking at ownership projections. No one's really cracking 2 to 3%. To be completely honest with you, there's no chalk in this range. So Sam Ryder, he's a name. He's been playing pretty well, tee to green, so you could definitely play some Sam Ryder. I like let's see who I like here. Jim Herman, he was the guy for a
your
few
boy,
events.
the Herminator.
For a few events last season. Why not? I mean, he's 6,500 price with these other jabronis down here. So some other names down here, Brandon Wu. He came up with Morikawa and Wolf and everyone else at that same time. He's obviously not lived up to the expectations as the other guys, Hovland and everybody. But he's a West Coast guy. He went to Stanford. This is his area of the country that he played golf in. So definitely like could play some Brandon Wu. I like Wyndham Clark. This is an event where I think he's a little mispriced. He should be a little bit higher, maybe $400-500 higher. Of course, where we're asking you to drive the ball far, he's one of the longest hitters on tour. I could definitely play some Wyndham Clark. I don't really like anyone else. One other guy I like is Bo Hostler. I mean, he was turning it on for a few events last season, and maybe he can ride that into this season. But yeah, you gotta, if you're gonna win a GPP, you gotta pick the name correctly down here that is going to spike. And for me, it's just closing your eyes and clicking a name. I just really don't know who it's going to be. I don't really like anyone down here, but those names that I mentioned are the kind of the guys that I'm going to be sprinkling into my lineups.
Yeah, there's a couple guys that I do like this week, and like you mentioned, whether it's winning the GPP or playing John Rahm, you're going to have to venture down into this area if you want to fill out a lineup. Unless you're going to stack your John Rahm lineup with a bunch of guys in the low 7,000s, if you're going to mix in a guy in the 8 or the 9s, you're going to have to venture down here. Some other names that I do like James Hahn this week. You talk about skill set. He's a beast off the tee. He's dead straight. He's a fairway finder, not super long. He's very good with wedges. He's a West Coast guy, so I like him. Cam Piercy's another name, a guy who's had success here in the past. Also had success at Wampo and Sony. So he's another name that you could click the box on. And then if you need somebody way, way, way down the board, like if you're just like, hey, I need somebody like at the min, you've got our boy TPJ who shows up for like 2 or 3 tournaments a year. He usually does very well at the course up in San Francisco, just down the road from here, Pebble Beach.
Pebble Beach, yeah.
Every single year. David Hearn is another guy, the Canadian, dead straight off the tee, good with wedges. Chris Stroud, last name that I'll throw out there. He is the only thing that I think he does well is hit a wedge. Everything else is absolute garbage and trash. So those are some names if you need to fill out a lineup. But like you, if you're heavily invested here, if you have to grab 2 guys out of this range, you may want to rethink the top end of your lineup before you go and grab 2 of these guys. And there's a lot of newcomers, like we mentioned. A number of those Corn Ferry guys are here. We're going to get our first look, but it is not outside of the realm of outcomes that we could see a winner come from here. Like I said, Trey Mullinax, John Huh, Chase Seifert. These are names that are going to be near the top of the leaderboard on Sunday with a chance to win.
Yeah, one name I forgot that I actually really like is David Lipsky. He's an American that has been playing on the European Tour the last couple of years. I think he has a couple of wins on the European Tour even, but he finally got his card to play on the PGA Tour. So he's back in his home country of America, and he's going to be playing on the PGA Tour all season. He's a good player. Tee to green, he's been good, and he's a good putter. So I definitely gonna have some David Lipsky in some of my lineups. And like you said, Trey Mullinax, I like him too. He's one of the longest hitters on tour. When he's been on tour, he was on the Corn Ferry for the last year. And then our DFS darling from last year that everyone kind of forgot about was Vincent Whaley. He was good for a few events last year in the middle of the season. Maybe he's a little rejuvenated now, and he's back to fighting for his card this year. So definitely sprinkle in some Vincent Whaley. But like I said, you just gotta close your eyes and hopefully you pick a guy correctly.
Yeah, so it's Armour, Duffner, and Hahn probably down here for me. For you, it's Lipsky and let's see here. Who else did you mention? Trey Mullinax.
Jim Herman.
And your boy Jim Herman, right? So there's some names if you're looking to get a little bit different. The last one that I'll throw out before we get into the bets is Kurt Kitayama. He's a guy who was a Euro darling. Again, another American playing on the European Tour. Played very, very well at the beginning of the season, kind of fell off, but again, has found his way onto the PGA Tour. So do some research on some of these guys down here, especially unfamiliar names, because like Rick mentioned, if you're going to win a GPP, you're going to need to find the guy that makes you into the top 10 here on Sunday.
Yeah, and I feel like the edge that we have is that we know some of these golfers. Obviously, the people that are coming in from NFL DFS money, they don't know any of these guys. So you got to try to pick a guy. I mean, like guys like us that watch golf know these names, but you just got to hopefully those other amateur players don't, they don't luck box into just clicking a random name. So you just got to kind of hope and pray and close your eyes and pick one.
Speaking of names, who in God's name is Trevor Werblio?
I have no idea who that is. No
Yeah,
clue.
I just saw that name and I'm like, that I don't know who that person is.
Yeah, there's a couple names in here. I don't know who the hell is Turk Pettit. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, there's a bunch of just, I mean, randos in
Yeah,
this area. So Max McGreevy, I
yeah.
I don't know who that is. Like,
I think these are probably just Corn Ferry guys that
yeah,
we haven't seen.
Quad Cummings. I mean, who is that guy? Is that
I
a made,
don't
is
know.
that a made up name? Did somebody make up a name? Is that guy's
No,
real name John? He just like call me Quad.
I have no idea. Oh, one guy who's actually a good golfer down here, 6,400, is Justin Suh. He Monday qualified for this event. He was a kind of guy that everyone was playing last year, but didn't have a good season. Just he doesn't have his card, so he's having a Monday qualifier sponsored exempt in the events this year. So he's going to be playing a lot of Corn Ferry this year. So you can play some Justin Suh for sure.
I think I'm going to throw Trevor Werbylo into a couple lineups. Just to say, watch my boy Trevor. Trevor's showing up this week. I got a feeling now with that weird ass last name. All right.
I'm gonna see who this guy is. Hold
I
on.
know. You're gonna have to look him up now while I'm giving my bets.
Who is this guy? It doesn't even say much. He's from University of Arizona. I played on the Corn Ferry. Yeah, he's a Corn Ferry graduate. Just doesn't say much other than that he played
There
for
you go.
University of Arizona.
There you go. I'm rolling with my boy Trev this week.
Trevor Warblow. All right, I'm gonna play some Trevor Warblow too in my lineups.
I might have to add Trevor to my card. I think I might have to throw a bet on top 20 for my boy Trev. All right, so let's get into the bets for the week. For me, I'm rolling with some staple bets for me. They're guys that are FOMO bets. I bet them almost every week. But Hoffman and Munoz and Homa, I'm playing the top end for Homa. He's not played well, but he's back on the West Coast where he's had most of his success in his career. So I like those numbers. Mito, again, that's a FOMO bet. He's just, to me, he's one of the next guys. And then Reavy. I like Reavy in DraftKings. I like Reavy for a bet, which usually means he's going to miss the cut. So if I were you, I've not played Ches Reavy, but I will be all in on Ches this week. And then bombs above 80. Gim, Gooch, Stroud, Lebiota. I can't give that up. Another FOMO bet for me. Swafford and my boy Ryan Armour. I might sprinkle Kazire, and I'm looking hard, very, very hard at the numbers that Webb, Nah, and Will Z are running right now to see if I might be able to get some kind of movement on one of those three guys. But don't be surprised if I add one of those three guys to the card since I don't have anything below 40-1 this week.
Yeah, I'll go to my card next. I got a pretty big card. A lot of bombs for me this week, just because I think anyone could, kind of spike from the bottom. But my main bets are Will Z at 20-1, Hoffman at 40-1, and Mito at 50-1. Those are like my main guys that like one unit each. I really want to see Will Z win a tournament. I think he's way too good to have not won by now. He's one of the best ball strikers in the world. So I really would like to see him win. This would be a great way for him to start off the season. Pretty much if he wins this week, he locks up his FedEx Cup playoffs pretty much right off the bat. So definitely would like to see Will Z. If I was playing in a one and done, I'd pick him this week, but I don't have any one and dones that are starting this week. So yeah, Will Z, Hoffman, and Pereira at the top for me. And then all my bombs are just guys that could potentially spike. Gim, Steele, Chad Ramey, like I talked about, Dylan Fratelli, like I talked about, Bramlett, Barnrat, Kazire, Pendrith, Swafford, Herman, Hostler, and Clark. All these guys are just sprinkles. They're all, triple digits, betting wise. So just sprinkles that, just in case if they magically have a magic week, they could win. But the three guys at the top I really like, Will Z, Hoffman, and Mito. I think those are my best value as far as bets go.
Yeah, you and I are both on Hoffman and Mito and Wilsey. If the number creeps for me, like I said, between him, Nah, and Webb, I could see adding one of those guys to the card just to have somebody down in that range. The one thing I would say about a tournament like this, because of the high amount of variability, is don't be afraid if your book offers live bets to watch things happen because it will play out. and the books will not be paying attention, and there will be odds on guys that they should not have those odds.
Yeah.
So you might be able to steal something on a guy, especially if you're using a tool like Fantasy National or using Rick Gaiman's tool to be able to watch the live leaderboards. There is a huge advantage if you can watch that from the betting market perspective.
Yeah, I played golf with Rick this past weekend. I got a funny story about that. So, me and Rick played Saturday morning after I drove to Vegas on Friday, and I drank like as soon as I got there. I was drinking, and then we went to dinner. Like me and Chris and a bunch of our friends, we went to dinner, and then after dinner, they booked a table at a club, and I was like, man, I have golf at 7 o'clock in the morning. Should I actually go out to the club and drink? I have golf in the morning. So I made the dumb decision of drinking and going out to the club, and I went to bed at probably like 3 o'clock. I woke up at 5:30 for my 7 o'clock tea time with Rick, and I was actually playing okay. I wasn't playing great. I was hungover and not sleeping or whatever. And then on the 14th hole, I just got hit with like a ton of bricks, and I literally could not play. I WD'd after the 14th hole. I was so dehydrated. I didn't sleep. I was just playing like garbage. I was like, Rick, I am so sorry. It was really fun playing with you, but I couldn't do it anymore, and I just sat in the cart for the rest of the round drinking water.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to start calling you Brooks or Louie here, WDing after the 14th hole. You know what though?
Yeah, so if you play,
When you text me that night and you're like, "Hey, they got a table. Should I go?" I'm like, "Do you want to play like shit tomorrow, or do you actually want to like show up and play well?" And you chose the latter, which hey, stronger men have made worse decisions.
I used to be able to do it like back in college. Like I would drink like all night and then be ready to go for a morning tea time the next morning and play fine. But at the age of 35, I can't. I literally can't do it anymore. But the course that we played was beautiful. It was a replica British Open course. So they had 18 replica holes of the British Open courses, and they had like the postage stamp from Carnoustie, the road hole from St Andrews. Course was absolutely beautiful, and it was like $120 round, and I felt bad not being able to finish my round, but I just couldn't do it anymore. I was dying out there, so played golf, went back to the room, and then like slept for like 5 hours.
Well, you end up paying basically $10 a hole to play there, so I guess you can
Yeah.
walk away and say that.
Yeah, the funniest thing is that I left the club at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to bed, and then I talked to Chris the next day, and I was like, "Chris, how was the rest of the night?" Because he was still there. He's like, "Dude, I went to bed at like 9 o'clock in the morning." I was like, "God damn, I already played 9 holes by 9 o'clock in the morning." He's like, "Yeah, I was like throwing up or not feeling well like the whole day." So yeah, it was a pretty rough first night, but yeah, it was a fun trip.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes in Vegas is you go hard night one, night two, and it pretty much just ruins the rest of the tournament because
Yeah,
you can't finish out. You end up having a WD like you did because we're old, Rick. We can't do that crap anymore. You
yeah,
can do it one night, you just can't do it for like two or three. It doesn't work that way.
yeah. Rick's a good golfer. He crushes it off the tee. He's a really good golfer.
Yeah, yeah. Gaiman, when we played out at Torrey
The Tory,
Pines, I
yeah,
mean, he
yeah,
played really well there too. So
yeah,
I'll have to reach out to him. I'm gonna be out in Vegas here in about a month, so I'll have to
yeah,
reach out. I will not be
yeah,
going to the club at 3 o'clock in the morning.
yeah. He's playing like 3 to 4 times a week. He'll definitely play with you.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I got to reach out to him and make sure we can schedule some time. But for sure,
Yeah.
well, I think that's going to do it here
All
for
right.
us tonight. Like I said, I don't think anybody's really going to be paying attention to this tournament with the NFL going
Yeah.
on and college football. But that just means there's opportunity on DraftKings. So if you're watching the
Yeah.
content, if you're using tools like Fantasy National, you will have a significant advantage over 85-90% of the people out there. It's a great time to make money. I love this time of year because of these shit tournaments. You are able
Mhm.
to take advantage of books and numbers and DraftKings. So I hope that all of you will be doing the same. Rick, any final thoughts before we close it out for the night?
No, that's pretty much it. I'm sure we had some riveting stuff tonight, but yeah, it's
Not
it's a
our
shit
not our
tournament, but
best. Not our
yeah,
best.
but no, not our best, but it's okay. I mean, this like you said, this is a good time to make money, especially if you pay attention to golf. So pay attention to those live bets and good luck, making your picks on your DraftKings lineups this week.
Absolutely. Tune into Rick and Chris on the Football Fantasy Show tomorrow night. Like I
Yep.
said, Mike will be doing the pre and post game recaps for the Bills. And then we will be back next week for another episode where we will be doing our show on the Ryder Cup. It'll be
Yep.
probably one of our most entertaining shows that we do. We have some very strong takes on the Ryder Cup. We love that tournament. So I'm looking forward to that show.
Yeah, we'll be doing me and Chris will be doing a football show tomorrow where we're basically going to recap week 1 of the NFL and basically give our outlooks on some players and look ahead to week 2 and just basically risers and fallers from week 1. We'll talk injuries and waiver wire and all that stuff. So if you like football, tune into our show tomorrow night. We'll be going over everything week 1.
That's right. Like, comment, and subscribe to the Nickel City Mafia channel, and all of that stuff, like I said, just gets dumped into your feed, and then we never have to mention this shit again. So, anyways, that'll do it for us tonight. Rick, thanks so much, man. Have a good night. Mike, appreciate it on the ones and twos. Everybody out there, have a great night.